Heal Your Shit is a podcast for anyone curious about why life throws us curveballs. We're all about digging into the connections between mind, body, and soul, but we keep it real. Because, let's be honest, being human can be one wild ride. Once you understand your shit, healing it becomes a whole lot easier.
Hello.
Hep-
Welcome back.
yes, after some time. And
Yeah, we felt the urge to dive into
Right.
and see, touch upon the subject of fear because we're all exposed to fears.
I think there's like some people can say, oh, I'm not afraid of anything. Well, we're all afraid of something.
Yeah, what happens if you're not afraid of anything?
Right.
What
And which
was
was
that?
could be beautiful,
Yeah,
like living the life fearless.
but it could also be shut down, and it could also be not, taking other people into account, not caring. So that's an interesting aspect of it.
So the question is if it's real when you say like, I don't have any fears. Or are you sure?
Yeah, exactly. And dare to look and dare to feel. And if you say that, are you in touch with your body at the same time? Or is it just a mind game
Yeah.
that you keep telling yourself I don't feel safe enough to have fears?
Right, because that could be a coping mechanism for
Exactly.
our childhood, right?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
The shutdown. Yeah, makes sense to me. But in general, like I think some people are really good at mapping these fears, coexist with them, or like they're really afraid of stuff
Yeah.
that might happen, like being rejected or being not good enough, and the list can go on.
Yeah.
But some people don't realize there can be a mask over their fear, so to say, But the fear is something else, right?
Yes, and I'll get back to it, but it's also about people are pushing through fear. I used to do that a lot,
Okay.
I'm afraid of, being physical hurt, so I go and do Thai boxing.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm just like, expose myself. And then maybe I can get rid of that fear. But I didn't bring the kindness to it.
Right.
And we need to expose ourselves to things, but also bring the nurturing element.
Kind of accept like well, I'm gonna do it and it's gonna be hard, but I always have that chance to
Yes.
go one step back.
Yeah, and see that, the pendulum often swings, like this. And I was like, if I wasn't doing and I wasn't excelling in my sports and killing it, I was worthless.
Yeah.
And I'd go and train even though I was starting to feel sick, and then I get really sick, So it's like, it's about the balancing of that fear. If we're just staying home, eating chocolate, watching TV, and not exposing ourselves to any fear or any pressure at all, it's stagnation.
That's also a coping mechanism for you. And
yeah,
sometimes it's okay.
Oh yeah, of course.
You've been through a lot. You might need a month of that. Like,
take a year. I don't know, but like for me, it's like, okay, I go do a cold plunge. I feel this, very strong sensations. The body's like cringing, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I can breathe. It's not, it's not dangerous. I've done this before, but how do I do a setup so it's safe?
Right.
And I'll take a warm bath afterwards, or I'll, bring that aspect in.
The comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's all about balancing, getting out of your comfort zone and then back into your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm not comfortable with heights. That's one of my basic fears. And I remember going to America and visiting Grand Canyon with my friends. Beautiful, lovely, but I was still afraid of the heights, and they were nuts. And it was very funny because there was like a sign, do not cross, do not go there, basically. And they were like, oh, we're going there. Yeah. I'm like, you're crazy. Oh, but you need to go with us. You cannot stay here. And then so I had to go on my 4 because I was so afraid. There was like nothing there, and there were just stones that could fall into the nothingness. So I was like, we're gonna die here, They're like, no, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. And so they're jumping over, like having fun. I made a picture and then came back on my floor. They were laughing at me. I didn't care because I have that fear, but I still faced it. I think like it was a great job because I made a picture, stayed there, despite the whole feeling so uncomfortable, and then came back. Even the way I did it was comic, obviously, but
Yeah,
did it.
but you're given your examples, it could
Yeah.
be like that fearlessness can be reckless also.
That's true.
And it could be like sort of the masculine or the teenage masculines,
Or
like, no, you don't dare. And then, somebody end up being really hurt or
That's
dies
true.
or something. And to bring in that, okay, but I really do care about you. But I want you to, can we challenge ourselves and each other in a way that's healthy and not like, oh, you're such a wuss or whatever, instead like, okay, how can I support you?
Yeah.
That's fair.
I think I just felt the pressure of the group because otherwise I was left out in the middle of the Great Canyon. Like, what do you do there by yourself? And I could have like visions like there are animals for sure and they're gonna come. And so I was like, no, I think I'm gonna stay in
Otherwise, you'd be coyote food or something.
but sometimes the situation pushes you into facing your fear.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be good because then you're like kind of beating it, like with the fear of heights, obviously. And sometimes it can have the opposite effect when it's going to make you feel worse and it's going to deepen that fear, the fear of public speaking. I'm talking about very simple things. Like if you're forced to do that and you don't take your time slowly, step by step, by opening up, building your public speaking skills, let's say.
Yeah.
So like, in a very simple way, like you're doing it at your own pace. At some point, you present something to a group of 4 people just to start. And then it becomes 10 and 50, and then it becomes, 2,000, right? You took your time. But if you're pushed into things, suddenly you're out of like warm water into the super cold ice water. It can be a shocker, and then it can make you shut down even more, I feel.
That's what I was feeling into also while we're speaking. Is your body with you on this journey? Where is the fear located? How does it feel? What does it tell you? And then breathe with it. And can you stay with it? And like, if there's any fear coming up and just like, oh yeah, there's a knot in my solar plexus. Like, okay, can you maybe put a hand on it and say like, I'm here? Instead of going up in with all the energy up to the head and then like rushing away or just like activating or freezing to bring that gentleness in those fearful situations. Because that's also like, okay, I need to take a step back. And, of course, in the Grand Canyon, you couldn't do that.
No step back. Yeah.
Many of these situations you actually can.
I think kids can teach that to us adults like in a beautiful way. And I have like an observation, very simple again. Like we went to the swimming pool with my daughter and she likes to jump into the water. And so there's like 3 levels. And like the last one I wouldn't do because I'm afraid of heights, obviously. So it's a no-go. So she would go from the lowest one and she was great. And the medium one, which she forced me to do. And I did that out of my comfort zone, but we did it together. So great. And then she went to the last one. And the first time we went to the swimming pool, she did it. She was like, didn't know the consequence, like, didn't know how high it is, can it hurt and so on. So the first time we went to the swimming pool, she did it without the fear. And the very interesting thing happened when we came back the second time to the swimming pool and she was jumping and then from the middle one. And then she said, okay, now I'm going to go to the 3rd level. And then she went there and then she came back and she said, you know what? No, because now I have this fear because I know how it feels.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's totally fine. You don't have to do like, if this kicked in, listen to your body. You don't have to do it. You should be the one who chooses.
Yep.
It was very interesting to observe how she regulated it. And first she did it, without any fear. And then and then the 3rd time we went there, she did it by herself again.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so it was kind of interesting process to see, like, first she was not afraid. Then the fear kicked in. And then we came back and the 3rd time she did it by herself. And I was like, see, It's your own pace.
And that's so nice, because then you don't shame her, because I
No.
think a lot of fear is connected to shame also. Like, if I don't do this, I'm worthless, or, so I have to push myself, and then you push yourself and it still doesn't feel right. And it's like, how do I navigate in that?
Right. Yeah. I think that's exactly what I didn't do, because I feel sometimes we do it in a good will as parents. Sometimes we push our kids into situations like, oh, you need to anyways learn it. You need to anyway face it. But I was like, totally, I understand you. Actually, I would never jump from that place. So no stress whatsoever. And then I saw how beautifully that worked out for her.
Yeah, and I mean, also sometimes you need to push through something, but then you also need to take your time to integrate and have a supportive setting.
Right.
Because otherwise you just push and then you're done with that, then you push through the next thing, and at some point it's just going to collapse.
Yeah. But it was just an example that came to me. But so I feel like when we talk about fears, that's something natural.
Yeah.
And they're primal fears that we actually are pretty comfortable, I think, these years that most of us live in a peaceful, like, obviously when you're living in a peaceful country like Sweden, where you don't have to face any wars and so on, or hunger. So those primal fears are kind of taken away from us. We don't need to worry as much as our grandfathers.
Yeah, or if you're not living in Alaska or something, grizzly bears. But it's more of the fears of, I think, rejection, being ostracized, not belonging. Yeah, like, instead of these primal fears of survival,
right?
It's more, of being a part of the group. That's, a lot of the fears of growing up and adapting to parents and to siblings. And in our social environment, going to school, having to do whatever the teacher basically tells you to do. And then, when we have to see ourselves and see our behaviors, that's causing trouble, basically. And we need to start, finding different ways of facing those fears in the world.
I think when we shift the focus from the primal fears into those fears that are a little bit more psychologically complicated, let's say, then as you said, like the two fears that I see a lot is and I also see them in myself, are the fear of rejection and fear of abandonment. Those are like such a strong fears. And I think, like, I don't think I know anybody who's totally existing without any of these two.
Yeah, that's true. I think
Is it?
I think we all should have that, because I think it's so interesting when you actually do face your fear of rejection. I felt I was getting interested in a friend that I had, and I actually expressed that, and I got sort of consciously rejected, and it was so much better. It was so much like, oh yeah, and I was curious about, like, okay, what's her take on this, and what happens in me, and how can we, have a relationship in a way as friends, and instead of being like, either shut down, or like she's an idiot, or run away or go away, or like we can't be friends anymore, and it's like keep the door open and experience this fear and running through, and like, okay, I can feel this, and I can maybe even express it to the person or to a friend or somebody else. And then you can actually move on through instead of like energetically shut down.
And I think that's so present. And actually, this might sound shallow, but I have quite a great example, because I was like, I feel like watching something easy on TV, and I don't normally I watch documentaries, but I was like, no, my brain is dead. I need to watch something easy, and I watched this program, which is pretty famous. Apparently, it's called Love Is Blind.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen it. Okay, it is so interesting from the psychological point of view, because people really have to bond based on their talks, based on how they attuned.
Yeah,
they don't see each other, so that's actually very, very interesting. And some people really bond You know, they'd see each other
Yeah.
every other day or every day and talk about things that matter and get this emotional attachment. And it's very interesting to see how people become also vulnerable in those situations and let their guard down. Because I saw it yesterday, and there was this woman, and she got rejected from men, and he was like not sure really if they can work out, and she poured her heart there. Like she said, but I have feelings for you. I feel you so close to me. And it was such a beautiful moment because I saw her and she opened her heart, and he said he was sincere. I'm sorry, but I don't see it. Like I want you and I feel you as a friend, but there's no more. And she obviously emotionally collapsed in that moment, and she was sorry, but she said also like, I wish you the best, you know? So like it was like such a beautiful I was
It's
shivered.
beauty in that. Like
There was so much beauty, and I was like observing him and said maybe it is like shallow program about the, you know, because it's gonna people gonna watch it, but I was like, wow, you know, showing that, and also like giving others example that you can go for rejection and still like with grace.
Yeah. And with the self-love in that. That's
There was
so
self-love.
important
Yeah.
because otherwise you put it out there and that's not gonna be a good idea because you're always gonna, get mirrored in that.
And also based because then you get friends, different types of people there, and so there was obviously there was an example of somebody who got rejected and got angry and threw things, and there's like this and also you could see how people base their self-worth on that, if they get rejected or no. And some people are so strong that they can take it, and that's like me just watching them saying, oh, I thought I'm just watching something very shallow, and there you have it. No, it's not. And I feel like we all should go through many rejections in a way to learn to take it with grace.
Yes, that's such a beautiful statement. And it reminds me, like talking about self-expression. I felt like when I turned 40,
Yeah.
I rented a theater and I invited people, so like public, but also my family and friends and
What?
so I had like a 2 hours conversation from stage and I didn't have any anything written down.
Wow.
I just went there and I had 2 acts. So first was just talking and the other one I painted my face and I started drumming with my shamanic drum just to expose myself, and it was such an urge to express and just show myself.
Wow.
And I mean, it could be a lot of shame. It's like, why did you do that? Why did you paint yourself a drum? I was like, I felt like and just to drop the shame in that, it's like, okay, I trust that whatever needs to come through comes through. And
Wow.
people might think this was bullshit. Some other people might think, oh wow, this was great. I trust that, because the guidance was so clear for me to do that.
And how did you feel after that? Did you have any fears before entering the stage, actually?
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's like tingling and scary, but it was also so much of the energy, like life was saying, like, you need to do this. It's sometimes with fears, it comes to a point that you really need to face it.
Squeeze.
Yeah, like stuff is building up, and
Yeah.
it's like funneling in. So
Wow.
it's time for you to do that now.
I wish I could have seen you.
Oh my God,
That
was
was
good.
fun.
It's like my parents, my ex-parents were there.
Oh wow.
My cousin, and
Oh God.
yeah,
So inspiring, actually.
it was something.
Like
I'm doing it again now, so
no. Oh, I wish I could be invited. Maybe I will do it. 3 more years and I'm 40.
Yeah,
No, 3.5. Yeah, 3 and something.
I'll be there. You're invited.
No, it's okay. I'll put an act.
Yeah.
Dance a little bit, sing.
Irish flower.
Yeah, but there you have it. I think the core is like if you exercise something like a muscle. We were talking before also like exercising that, saying no and receiving no, for example. I think that's a great way to build up that grace and feel like also when you feel whole in you. So when you work on your parts, that's important, because when you integrate and you feel like I don't need somebody's approval,
Exactly.
I can be myself. Like I can be myself in the workplace. I can be myself in a relationship. I can show up as a crazy me with my friends.
And quirky dorky, you know, all those sides like, oh, it's weird. And it's like, yeah, that's okay.
That's so liberating.
Yeah.
So when you integrate those parts of yourself, I feel like there's a lot of work to do here. That really, when you integrate, and I can see that in me, because I was always searching for approval. Like I think I was trained into that. My mother had a strong will to train that in me, and even until I was 30 years old, I would ask her like, how should I cut my hair? Oh, do you like this color? And it's like always searching. Nah, I don't care. I'm gonna get my first tattoo at the age of 36, and I don't care what she thinks about it, to be honest. So I think like if you go for that work, it's so liberating that you can be yourself, and you don't really care if you can get rejected. Okay, then maybe it's gonna hurt for a day or two. Like,
Yeah.
oh, but
Yeah, and I mean that's one thing, like the fear of not getting approval.
right.
But I think the masculine is more like the fear of being vulnerable, and being emotional, and just like, okay, I feel lonely. I feel, even like I feel tired. Some guys like never. No, I never feel tired. It's like, what?
Really?
I'll just drink another cup of coffee, and just like sip it up. But I mean,
Yeah, that can end badly. I saw that recently in someone,
yeah,
and that exactly gives the background of that. But like, they're pushing a lot.
Yeah.
They're like resistance and drinking a lot of coffee, by the way. And then the health collapsed totally. And I think that you really need to understand that even as a man, you are just a human, you
Oh, yeah.
know? It's so vulnerable, and actually accept it. And when you can be vulnerable with me, I can be vulnerable with you.
oh, I guess.
So
Exactly. And I seen that as friends also. They're like pushing through, and at the end of the day, they gotta start having health problems,
Right.
and the body's gotta start saying,
collapse.
"Oh no, I'm not putting up with this."
Mm-mm.
So either way, we can go it the rough way, and then we can end up having injuries or health problems, or we can start by nurturing ourselves more, and really, as you say, build up. Like, okay, what can I do now? Because I have this fear of maybe intimacy, like you were talking about. So that can be a fear of like actually exposing myself and pouring my heart out there. And because it's scary, and there could be a no, but sometimes even the yes can be almost just as scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to get close to you. You want to get close to me. It's like, oh, then I don't want it.
Or not that I don't want it, but that's what I shared with you before. It's like you want me, and we are in this intimate connection, and you show me how much you appreciate me, and you see me, and the fear can still kick in. I experienced it myself when I'm building something very beautiful, and I feel like, wow, there's still fear in the back of my head that is gonna just
That it could be that, the fear of blah, 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 like the fear of it going away or being rejected. But it could also be the fear of being like suffocated in the relationship, depending on, what we've been through.
Right. Yeah. But I think for me, it's like that it's gonna just disappear, because everything disappears, everything changes. And I have a lot of acceptance to the fact that life is a constant change,
Yeah. And I think that's one of the keys here also, to see that we're in constant motion. The motion is endless, and
Emotion.
emotion. Yeah, exactly. And it's a changing inner world, and it's a changing outer world. But can I be in that dance and be curious about it? How are you showing up right now in this moment? What's happening in my inner world, and how am I showing up? And how can I navigate in this field of inside and outside?
As this expansive energy, like like you want to feel safe, because that's like a very basic need.
Yeah.
Right. So like you want to feel safe, but when there's this dance that you were talking about, and everything is like changing, but you like dancing together along the way, there's a huge chance that's gonna go well, but there's also always a risk that it's just gonna be like this, you know?
Yeah, and I mean everything changes, and the leaves of the trees, they wither and die, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So having that acceptance, but still, like I feel we're never done with the inner work. We always say that.
No.
That's like ongoing process. But even when we come to a point where we build our self-esteem, we worked with our traumas and so on, that these fears they can still kick in. And I think that's important to acknowledge, because it's not like then you suddenly feel like, oh, maybe it's everything is wrong with me. And so like, no, the fears will come.
Yeah.
It's impossible to just walk for life and it's everything's perfect and you're not in any kind of fear.
Exactly, and but the fear in itself might, not overwhelm you as much.
Exactly.
Or on the other hand, if you're a person that's like, if you feel fear, instead you go into shutdown, then you can actually start feeling a bit more of the fear instead, or like leaning into the fear.
Right.
Because a lot of people also tend to like withdraw and isolate because it's too scary. And instead, like, okay, I know that's my go-to, like mechanisms.
Yeah.
And leaning into the fear is like breathing into the fear, and maybe, writing about it or calling a friend and talking about it, and like shit.
When kids are afraid of going to sleep and there's a monster under the bed and it's a big monster, and like when you really look under the bed, so to say, is that monster that big? Probably it's not. So the thing is, you need to look at it and face it sometimes and just observe it. Not even do anything about it, like observe it. And then you're gonna see that the fear that grew to this side is really this. And you can coexist.
Exactly.
Right?
That would be interesting if we do a set on parenting to go into that deeper. But
yeah. But also IFS and the parts, right?
oh yes, cool.
Fears everyone I worked with using the IFS tools, they could actually describe the fear, how it looked.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Very, very funny that how everyone has it so personalized. How it looks, how it acts, how it feels, how it sounds.
Yeah, and it's like, we often find fear in the like exile parts in the belly. Yeah. And they often might feel alone and turned away or scared or skittish, because they don't trust you. And then there's a protective part often in the chest. Right. It's like, fuck off, or you're not getting any closer.
Yeah.
And, if we don't work with those parts, we're going to have this, dance all the time.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. But I'm thinking about other angles as well. And we talked about the book that I gave you, the MacLeod, about soul purpose.
Yeah.
And he also has these, he divided fears into 10 fears, but those are fears based on the soul journey. So they're like a little bit rooted also in the past lives and, like these experiences. So it was the rejection, the abandonment, the intimacy.
Yeah.
But actually, we have it. I even printed it out. But I'm like looking.
Betrayal.
There's like the fear of betrayal. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's like something big for you, also.
Yeah.
Because this happened to you.
Oh yeah, of course. And what we're afraid of often comes to so to us. Yeah.
But do you feel, because like betrayal in close relationships, but in friendships, do you still have it?
No, I haven't had. When I was a child, I had, and I have not betrayal, but after my accident, I didn't feel, the friend that was with me climbing, I felt that he couldn't meet me in the depth. So I wouldn't characterize that as betrayal, but it was sort of like I needed to be seen and met, and he just didn't have the capacity. But nowadays, I don't experience actually any betrayal in my friendships. That was
so you could
been in my loving relationship.
Yeah, that's what I'm actually seeing. Like friendships, I don't see that you have any, like you're not guarded.
I feel a little bit in my heart right now. Yeah, it's like there's a little residue there.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. That even if we work for that, even if we work for that, there's always this kind of like a little residue, as you said,
Yeah.
that's left there, and you can still feel it. And maybe if you jump into or start a relationship, it's gonna be in the back of your head.
Oh yeah. And in my body, I could feel, a little bit around my heart going a little bit down my solar plexus. And it's about this, like my breathing is a little bit like shallow, or it wants to stop, like guard myself, and, to just tune into our physicality to see like, okay, this is actually going on right now, and then acknowledge. And it's like, yeah, I know you've been hurt. I'm here.
So kind of embracing.
And that like out breath of letting that go and feeling it and giving it, it's
Space.
space and like it's worth for
Yeah.
like, I love you.
Yeah. I mean, so make a friend out of your fear.
Yeah.
Kind of, right?
And I just wanted to share that example that I told you about also because I just started going to the gym again, like last week. It has been like, I don't know, 8 years or something. And I noticed that I had some hesitation and some fear to go there. And I was like, what is this about? And I think it was about when I went there, I used to come to the gym and I just wanted to get out of there. And also I didn't feel safe, but I was also going through the separation at that moment. So I had connected like going to the gym with like my nervous system doesn't feel safe here. But that was because my nervous system was out of balance because I was going through a rough patch.
Right.
So now when I got there, I felt like, oh, there's no fear here, and I could just be here, and I'm not judging myself. I don't feel afraid of being judged.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I could just stay in this experience and not be hard on myself.
Yeah, but I'm also like reflecting now what you just said, and the gym is kind of like what it connects in my brain. It's like power, and then masculine, and so on. And I think that in the moments where hard things are happening in your life, you sometimes need to decrease your personal space, or like be in that safe zone, because so much is happening, and sometimes you shouldn't go out of your comfort zone.
No, and that was right for me at the time because I went through a very like the feminine journey of nurturing myself, taking care of myself, feeling, crying, sharing, and doing a lot of healing work with that, and holding my heart and my belly, and
Embrace
sounding and just like soothe the system instead of like going with weights and stuff. But now it's like, okay, now there's the part of me that's like, okay,
I can do it.
I want to do this.
Yeah, I want to do this. Yeah.
I want to, like.
Yeah, and it's also like sometimes when you're forcing, it's like I'm thinking again, like with kids. No, if you force your kid to eat that carrot, they're gonna hate for the rest of their lives. Yeah, it's like, and if you don't force, like in a bad way, like like, oh, you have to.
Yeah.
Then it might become like something. Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable now with that.
Yeah.
The time that needed to pass passed, and it's okay. I'm not fearful.
Exactly. So that's the way to hold our fears and ourselves. But our parents didn't know better than what they did in the society the same way. So when we're doing this inner work and the healing, maybe hopefully we don't pass it on, and we can also be more gentle inside of ourselves, have more intelligence with the decisions that we make. So we're not in survival mode making bad decisions out of fear.
Yeah, exactly. I think taking decisions based on fear, or living all the time in fear, that you're just attracting that kind of vibe and energy that's gonna enhance it even more.
Yeah.
So basically, if you search for love out of fear of being alone, at some point you're gonna have to face that rejection and being alone. It's gonna collapse at some point.
Yeah.
And if you don't base it on that, and you're afraid of something, but you're going in, or like in love, right? You're taking that steps. but not out of the fear I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life, then there's a big chance that this is going to work out if you put the right work in and the other person is, at the same level with you. So I feel like sometimes we have to stop fearing everything, right? Because we are, like, as a society, very fearful. There's a war, there's this, the money, we don't have the safety, relationships. There's a lot. So if we tap into that energy of fear, like constant fear of everything, that can be also like tricky.
That's what I mean, and that's what we need to do. That's where the inner work comes out. I know there was somebody that said, like, fear is false evidence appearing real.
Okay.
So, that's connected to that, it's our own inner experience of, like, I'm not worthy. And if I go with that fear, I'm going to get mirrored in my worthlessness everywhere. But if I actually allow that feeling and to sit with that and breathe through that, maybe go to therapy or somatic experience or whatever with that, then we can gradually sort of unblend from that feeling and see that, okay, maybe that turns out to be a part that was very fearful and still is very fearful. And then we can start to hold that and we can build that, more loving, big self energy inside ourselves to like basically enhance our capacity to feel fear and be with fear and self-take fear. So then, yeah, I think that's a good way.
Yeah, then you can take everything that happens in your life, if it's bad or good, whatever happens, you can take it as redirection and not like, oh, I lost something.
Personal.
Kind of. So like if you tap into that energy that you said, like where you have the core of your self-love, self-worth, like going to your boss and facing him, for example, will not create, like, maybe there is going to be still some fear, like, oh, I can lose this job. But then you think, like, I'm going to get redirected. So if you think this in this way, you can really make those fears pretty small,
Yeah, it's all about this. It's like a navigational tool. And I mean, as long as we have this human body can instinctively react with fear. And I think that'll never go away. If a car, is about to hit us, we skip out of the way.
Yeah.
But it's about this, can I be my own inner guide and help me with the fear? Because I don't want to be like, I heard some spiritual teacher saying, like, your mother can die, you can still be happy. And I'm like, yeah, that's a bit too much, on that end. It's like, we're going to feel fear, we're going to feel sorrow. And that's okay. That's the human experience. But can we, at the same time, be in this place of presence, of awareness, and have a touch with that, with the deep inside, the deep tenderness, the beingness, and so we can play that dual awareness.
And I think it all comes down to balance, and that's how we share that view, and everything must be balanced in a way, like, because as you said, like, some people in the spiritual world, they say, oh, you can live a fearless life, you can live the life only of abundance. Well, everything that comes in your life, and it can be a negative experience as well, brings something, a lesson, and so on. Also, like, life is so, like, there's so many shades, and embracing that. And with fear, yeah, great. I mean, come here, fear, and we're gonna walk through that together,
Exactly, and show up for it. That's also what I mean. Like, do you really show up in this human life and, like, care about your life, your friend's life, your kids' life, to really engage, to have that possibility, but also disengage sometimes to get the rest. So otherwise he's like living in constant survival and contracted, and then you don't have that intelligence to navigate your fears.
Yeah.
You need to find a little room every now and then to turn back to the all-knowing.
I think it's all comes down to this emotional intelligence, like recognizing what's happening in me right now.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're so, like, busy that we forget to look inside and see, okay, the fear is kicking in. Okay, which fear is that? Okay, how can I handle that? And then you can navigate, as you said. But if you don't have that emotional intelligence or time to look inwards, that's gonna be hard.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a billion things happening all around us at the same time, and we maybe can see 10. I don't know. I mean, it's like, we tend to be like horses, with these blinds. It's like just running. And then sometimes, because if we just keep on running, not giving ourselves the time and the space to, okay, am I in my body? Am I going in the right direction? Am I listening to, the guidance into life?
Yeah. And that's what I always said, that you're the best doctor, your own doctor, your own psychologist. You're the best because you have the insights to everything. It's just about turning your eye inwards and seeing inwards.
Yeah.
And that's how you can start this process of facing fears and working with them, living with them, because they're not going anywhere.
Yeah. And also, if you're afraid of support, reach out for support.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great advice.
Yeah.
Because you might be afraid of that.
Yeah.
As being
oh, exactly.
That's strong enough.
That's probably just what you're going to do,
Face it. Yeah. Face it.
Face your fears.
Face your fears. And embrace them.
Embrace them.
Yeah.
Love them.
Yeah.
You can. Otherwise, accept them.
Just, accept them.
Okay.
But I think we're
done.
We're done. We're done with fears.
We're done.
And thank you for listening. And
thank you.
Please follow us and
subscribe.
And if this resonated, please share with your friends. Yeah, and people that you feel this could help.
What we love, when we hear somebody that's listened to us and found some advice or some guidance.
Piece of information that they were missing.
Just a nugget.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Much love.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.